Still not racing.
You changed outfit.
Yeah, I did. I'm out here over in the Pioneer Mountains, Sun Valley, Idaho. Stanhope is going on. They got a 100-mile distance and also their signature 60K. I was up bright and early this morning, or late, whichever way you want to look at it, volunteering at the 100-mile check-in. Race started at 5 a.m. I was there helping out at 3:30. I've got a finish line 60K shift at 3 p.m. So with this gap in the middle, I want to get my own run in, try out these Cloudultra Peaks here. I am running here on the course route from Fall Creek through Surprise Valley up to Stanhope Pass. We'll see if I do make it that far. I'm gonna be probably a little tight on time. I've got 4 hours until my shift starts, plus about, I think at least an hour drive on some funky washboard roads to get over there. So it leaves me about maybe 3 hours with some time maybe to clean myself up before I head over there. Quite runnable here at the moment, but at some point I'm gonna spill into a grassy valley. I remember that being quite wet and soggy, although all bets are probably off this year. The trailhead that I started out at was at 7,200 feet already. Stanhope Pass is just above 11,000 feet. So with that amount of vertical gain on top of my time constraints, kind of sure that I won't make it all the way up there. Perhaps, hopefully, I can at least get a good look at it. This is actually my first run in this pair of the Cloudultra Peaks. I, of course, did that demo run over at TrailCon, so I do know what to expect as far as how this model is going to feel underfoot. Although, again, this particular pair, fresh out of the box, we're starting out testing with a bang here. My guy Matt over at On went through the specified details in that demo run video, so check that out for those specifics. I'll just run through the specifics of my US 9.5 EU 43 pair here. I've got 9.1 ounces, 257 grams here. I did confirm a 32 mil stack height at the heel, matching up with their spec 31.5. You've got a 4 mil drop here, so based on my measurement, I've got these at 32.28 underfoot. Midsole setup here is mostly Helion HF, primarily centered under the forefoot for comfort, a little bit softer on the top layer closer to the foot. It does extend towards the rear under the heel, but then you have a firmer regular Helion layer under the heel close to the ground. You've also got some Cloud Tech pods back there. Only 3 of them though, not the full On Cloud setup you see in the majority of their shoes, but a similar setup to what you've seen in the Cloudventure Peak series, with this shoe being geared towards faster, more technical running, shorter distances. They didn't want to have a lot of that, or too much of that, let's say, mechanical cushioning aspect, more so relying on the Helion HF foam itself here. Now, given those details, you might wonder if this shoe leans more Cloudventure Peak due to the kind of speedier, racier orientation, narrower platform, less of those Cloud Tech pods, or does it lead more Cloud Ultra Pro based on the aspects of having a good proportion of that Helion HF underfoot. We can get that out of the way here. This is not your soft, cushy, ultra racing style shoe like the Cloud Ultra Pro. Definitely leans more Cloudventure Peak, firmish ride underfoot. There is some type of flexy kind of deflection plate, I'm not sure what they call it, underfoot here. I do not believe I saw any mention of the word speedboard anywhere in the sheets or even on the website. And I think that makes sense because they did say it was a speedboard in the Cloudventure models, and it definitely doesn't feel as firm or as rigid as that model. It is still a firm racy type ride underfoot, that's for sure. Just a notch or two below the firmness of the Cloudventure models. You could also feel a noticeable big front rocker there, smooth, early starting, really at least the middle of the ball of the foot, perhaps even feels like even a little behind the ball of the foot. It just rolls continuously forward, something I definitely didn't feel with the Cloudventure, and also not with the Cloudultra Pro, but that's a different animal with the softness of feel taking priority in that model. At 28 mil under the forefoot, full Helion HF up there. You might expect it to be a little softer. I'm not sure if they gave a kind of firmer tuned Helion variety, Helion HF variety that is here, or if it is kind of just the effect of that protective film or plate in there. And it is also a narrow platform, so you're orienting a lot of the force under a narrower width with each ground strike, less kind of squishing out into, say, a softer foam over a wider platform. Now that works out really well for ground feel. Feels great as I'm picking my way through here. 9.1 ounces underfoot. Very nice weight for running fast. And also being agile with this narrow platform, what it's lacking in, say, super stack cushioning. Again, you still got a mid-stack cushioning here. It makes up for it in agility, so you might be seeing me here kind of move around a little bit to avoid even some of these small rocks a lot more easily in this shoe. Started to hit a bit of a steep rocky climb up to Surprise Valley now. Pretty rough over here. Again, I have no specific recollection of this part of the course, although I have been through here on 2 separate occasions. In case you're considering coming out to Idaho for some trail and ultra racing, this is what a lot of it looks like. Big, huge climbs, up and down just like this. I think there's probably 7 climbs or so to this degree over the course of this Stanhope 100-miler. Just past 8,200 feet here, about 1,000 since I started this route, and a good majority of the beginning was kind of flat. But over a shorter type of distance trail race, this is the kind of shoe that just feels perfect traversing this sort of terrain. Quite lightweight, easy to maneuver around again. Even when you're climbing slow, it's still nice to be able to easily, or more easily, pick your feet up and place them where you want to. I say that now, but I am doing it out and back today, so I'm gonna have to come back along the same way. I do stand by my pole recommendation, even for the 60K. Mission grip outsole here, hanging tough at these dry, steeper grades. Looks like we popped out up top here. Might catch a slight bit of runnable terrain. Well, maybe not quite. Four-mil drop here. Definitely gives a kind of flat, balanced feel. Can feel a bit flat on steeper climby parts compared to, say, a 6 or an 8, but does give a nice overall front to back balance feel. Very narrow platform underfoot here with this shoe. If I'm looking down at my feet, I see the edge of the shoe, and then I see trail. Really nothing at all overhanging here, so you can feel confident that you're not gonna catch the edge of the midsole or outsole anywhere unexpected. You know it's getting rough when you start seeing rock cairns. I'm about an hour 11 in, 5.2 miles. I'm at 9,400 feet. Certainly feeling that elevation a little bit. Might be the highest I've been so far this season. Probably gonna end up just trying to catch the view over here. Maybe check out the Surprise Valley aid station and then turn around. Don't want to cut it too close with my volunteer shift. Yeah, see? If I was running the race, I would have run of course here. Just passed through Surprise Valley Aid. I'm not gonna go all the way up to the top of the pass. Don't have enough time, but they said about 10 or 15 minutes this way and I'll have a spectacular view, so make it that far and turn around.
It's awesome up here, though.
All right, this is definitely well into Surprise Valley. Pass zigzags up there. Pretty steep. I think it's about at least 1,000 more feet. But I am unfortunately short on time, so I'm gonna jet on back, head on over to Star Hope. Got about a couple hours to make it, and then I'll see everybody, at least for now, the 60K finishers, over at the finish line. What's your name?
Kyle.
Kyle. Good job, man.
Oh, gracias, dude.
Good luck up there on the pass, man. 11K. All right, that's it for me. Solid 6.2 out. Nice little 10K there. 2,700 feet of gain. Time I got on the clock. Took me about 128 on the clock. I'm gonna try to jet back a little faster if I don't get lost. Where am I? I think I'm going the right way. So let's see, 127. Try to get back faster. Downhill, of course. But, whoa, it is lumpy here. Gotta be careful here. Make it back safe. Yeah, definitely remember this area here. Surprise Valley. Mushy, lumpy kind of wetland here. I did step in a mud hole earlier. Went through that creek and rinsed it off though. But lots of little ditches around here. This part right here is actually more dangerous than the rocky trail because there's just, oh, especially here, lumps of grass, plus the rocks from time to time, but completely uneven. Hard to tell what you're landing on. That is exactly the hole I stepped in on the way here. Before I get to some downhill thoughts here, I want to do this carefully. I am going to cut away to some close-up footage about the fit, sizing, and the upper, which I will film at a later point since I'm trying to jet over to Star Hope. I'm signed up for about a 5-hour shift, but I like to be on time. So without further ado, here's me in the future. All right, we're looking at fit and sizing here for the Cloudultra Peak. I've got a US 9.5 here, EU 43. I'm gonna put this on for comparison in a bit, but this is a US 10, EU 44. I've run 108K in this shoe, as well as plenty of long training miles. So I do like this comfort fit, the extra length, and also I think this is quite a wide shoe, the Cloudultra Pro here, for longer distance miles. Ultra comfort. I got a chance to try the Cloudultra Peak at TrailCon, as I've talked about, and US 9.5 seemed to be the call. I tested the Cloudultra 3, the training version of this model here, also in a US 9.5. But again, I think for those training comfort miles, I prefer to have the 10. I actually gave away that 9.5 just because I would have wanted to have a 10 in this model, and I like training and also running in this shoe for racing as well. This one, a different story though. I'm thinking purely shorter distances, shorter distance racing. That is a call for this shoe. And quick thumb check here, I'm not bumping up against the front here. If you take a look at this shoe, it could be just the visual aspect of it being so narrow in comparison to some higher stack shoes, notably the Cloudultra Pro over there. It's just a very streamlined shoe, and I think it just has like a kind of long look to it, and I think it does also have a bit of length to it. At this 9.5, I'm wearing my Run Anatomic sock from Sidus here. This is a thin sock, not super ultra lightweight, but pretty thin. Let's see, it is not a full thumbs width. It's not a half, somewhere in the middle there, call it 2/3. One thing to note here, as far as this being a slim fitting upper, I talked about this on the run, and you'll see in a moment after this close-up, you'll see me going through a quite rocky descent, and you can see how agile this shoe will be when I'm running through and dancing my way through those rocks and stuff. It is advantageous to have this narrow platform, tighter fit, less kind of bumper around the foot when you're trying to place yourself, not around patio stones like this, but in legitimate rocks, which if you stay tuned in, you'll see in just a moment here. So again, I think I'm equally comfortable here in this US 9.5 from On as I am in this 10 for longer distances here. Couple of notes about the upper here. By the way, I didn't even notice this. I think in my testing, I had laced to the second eyelet during that run there, and I had this one laced to not the second, just the normal upper eyelet there, and I think I was just trying to feel out if there was any difference, and I definitely didn't notice any difference. So I think you could probably go to the second eyelet just as well, because I didn't get any lace bite and I didn't notice any heel slippage in either of these shoes. So I think there's a little variability there in where you want to lace the upper eyelet. What I wanted to get to here was, I was noticing these two lower eyelets, you've got two at the bottom section here. So if you count them up, not counting the second one here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A lot of shoes will typically have 5. Let's count this one here, Ultra Comfort, of course. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus this second eyelet here. If you count the second eyelet in this model, as I am laced here, I'm laced through 7 rows of lacing here, which is, I think that's the most I've ever laced a shoe. 6 tends to be, one extra compared to most shoes. So I think with this slim fit up front, this is a Matrix upper. You won't see any Matrix logos on here. I think On is a little bit particular about having a sleek look, their own logos on there, no extraneous brands printed on their shoes, but this is a Matrix upper here. Slim, narrow fit here, but you've got these two down here. So if you get this shoe and you end up feeling maybe it's a little tight in this lower section, you like the narrow feel, you like the agility, but perhaps you just want to loosen it up a bit. I haven't done this just yet because I haven't quite had any issues like that, but I would play around with these two lower eyelets. Maybe skip this one would probably be the first thing I do. Lace to the bottom, skip this one, go directly to the third one, or perhaps do a variation depending on how your foot is oriented in the shoe. There's various ways you can do it. Lace from here to here, here to there, skip the bottom one if you're too squeezed up at the very front. I think that's probably the intention with this, because I think they know that it is kind of a tighter fitting model here. Pop this one off, take a look around. Nice padding all around the heel. I didn't have any issues in my test run during that Stand-Hope course route over there. Very comfort fit inside, and tongue also is nicely padded, similar to the Cloudultra Pro. This one has kind of padding running straight a little bit down the sides here, but across the middle here, this one you've got kind of large pads coming down both sides of the tongue. And as you see, my lace knot here kind of lands in the middle, but being that you have those padding on the side, it takes the pressure of that knot from being directly on top of the tongue there. So I don't have any comfort issues anywhere at all in this upper, and you can tuck the laces in here if you want, keep them out of the way of your stride pot if you got one, which I do. Let's go side by side here just to demonstrate differences in fit that you probably should think about depending on how you're racing. Okay, so US 10, EU 44 here, 9.5, skipping a full EU size, double check that. Yes, 43 here. So full EU size, half US size difference here. I've got my full thumbs width up front, maybe even a touch less, I don't know, 7/8. Okay, I'm getting crazy with the imperial sizing here, but a little bit more space in front of this toe here, and you can clearly see with these two shoes the width of this one. I think I got a comment, somebody was saying that perhaps they didn't find the shoe wide. I stand by my call that this is one of the widest, or at least pretty wide uppers in a trail super shoe. That's what makes it so great, so comfortable, and even just an amazing training shoe. Certainly as they expand their colorway options, you can find this Cloudultra Pro on a pretty good deal at times. Being that it's not a carbon fiber plate here, this is just great. It feels softer compared to other plated shoes. If you can get a good deal, great training shoe. But yeah, coming back to comparison here, look at the differences in fit between these two models. I think this is super wide, super square up front. I am up a half a size, of course. And coming back to my main point here, you want to have more size here if you're going to run 108K like I did in this shoe. I will not be running, I can assure you, 108K in this model here. Who knows, maybe a shorter distance race, but certainly shorter distance efforts, steeper efforts, rockier efforts, which you will see in a moment, where I want this more dialed fit, and perhaps this might feel a little bit unwieldy in certain parts of certain courses and in different types of terrain. So I've got two different sizes here, and I would not change either sizing in either shoe here. I did, again, have that Cloudultra 3 in the 9.5, but this 9.5 feels a little bit longer than the Cloudultra 3, and I think I was a little close to the front in that other Cloudultra 3, and just being a training shoe, again, I would have wanted to go for a 10 in that model, but I do like this 9.5 here, and I'm happy with it. I do want to tighten up for the descent here. It's quite a narrow fit here, and I kept it quite loose for the way up. Back on the descent here, stopped to tie up my laces. Again, first run in this pair here, so I wasn't sure on the tension and wanted to keep them a little bit looser, being that pretty much all climbing from the start. Did loosen up a little bit, especially with those stream crossings there. Those will always tend to loosen up an upper, although this is On's first matrix upper, so perhaps not as much as other shoes, but again, fresh out of the box, upper's still gonna loosen a little bit. Also, generally want to have tighter lacing tension the steeper down you are going. You can see what I'm doing right here. You want to kind of eliminate, or at least mitigate, any little bit of foot sliding when you're running down steep and rocky trails like this. You want to have full confidence that nothing is going to move underfoot. So I am not the best, very steep technical runner. I don't know, at this point I don't like to take the risks. Certainly more so this season after a couple injuries and another fall too. That counts as an injury. But Not right now, when it does kind of more graduate out, let's say, and I can get to kind of wiggling around and dancing around. That's what I really like right now. Not right now. No, a second. That is when this shoe really shines. Especially here, now that I snug down these laces a bit. They're really feeling glued to my feet, and running a little more of those steeper parts, probably a little bit more confidently than I would have in other shoes or before I tightened up those laces. Now, I don't mean to say that this shoe is going to offer you any special or magical advantage when you're running in trails like this, especially downhill, but it does provide you the platform to do what you have the ability to do. I've certainly found myself on edge at times, a little scuff there, but that is going to be the case with all shoes, and it is going to vary on how fast you want to take some of these trails and how much risk you want to take. So final thoughts from a race angle here today. If any of you were out here at Stanhope, a lot of runners actually said hi, said they watch videos and stuff, which is pretty amazing, pretty awesome. But if you're out here, you'll know what to expect out on a course like this, and hopefully you'll get a flavor through watching this video. So I did about 10 miles here, a little more. Course is about 60K, so multiply what I did by 3 plus a little more. I'm not sure if there's too much more runnable parts. This was pretty rocky, this section right here, but more or less, say multiplied by 3.5. And I think the Cloudultra Peak would be enough for this course. I think the firmness is not too bad. It's actually advantageous. Certainly now that I turned around coming down this backside, it's going to protect the feet more so in the aspect of protection compared to cushioning. And cushioning is something you'd more look for once you get longer distances. Again, racing the full 60K, probably doing a lot more hiking than I did here today. The 100-miler, for sure, this shoe not enough. Then you'd be in Cloudultra Pro territory, obviously something where you want a little bit more cushion underfoot. But I am actually quite surprised by how well this shoe is handling, and I think they would handle even better in runnable terrain. Certainly if I had more sections of a touch softer kind of carpet, maybe forest carpet, California carpet, that type of thing. The rocker up front here gives me the feeling that it is a really quick ride in the right terrain. And again, protective enough when it does get rocky. So I do want to keep up this type of very steep type of running. I may do a longer ultra race in the fall if my legs continue to feel good and if I can continue to ramp up my training little by little. Maybe in a couple months' time, hit up one of these longer races. But for those steeper up and down training days, I think this is a shoe that I could comfortably reach for when I want to pound out the legs going both up and down. Of course, more comparison testing on the way. Let's think off the top of my head, Prodigio Pro. I think they also have a lighter weight shoe, Talento or something like that, coming out. Might be a closer match to this one. S-Lab Genesis on the way. Hoka Torrent. S-Lab Pulsar 4. Let's think, what else? Oh yeah, Off Trail Ultra to a certain extent. Certainly for full 60K race course like this. Chirac 02. I don't know. Let me know if I'm missing something there. Adidas Speed 2. Perhaps that's a little bit racier, a little bit too firm as far as kind of mountain racing like this. Not sure yet. Anyway, let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe. All that good stuff. I'll see you in the next one.